Hi, I'm Debbie, and this is my Christian testimony. I already actually recorded this using my Vroid avatar, but when I was praying today, it came into my heart that I should record a version of it using my real face and my real voice. So here I am. I didn't really originally want to do that because this is really difficult for me to talk about, but you know, I guess for what it's worth, I want people to know that Jesus is coming to save the sinners. And if he can save somebody like me, then he'll come for anybody. So the story isn't really a happy one. A lot of really bad things happened to me, and it's difficult for me to talk about because this wasn't even really that long ago. And I can't even say that bad things happened to me. I invited them. And so here's what happened really. When I was a teenager, I really was interested in the occult and doing magic spells and tarot and Ouija boards and ghost hunting and all that kind of a thing. And even my own father sort of taught me witchcraft, and we would do magic spells together. It was something that we even bonded over, I could say. And that's not to indict him or anything like that. I'm just trying to explain really how this all happened. Basically, one day we decided to do a ritual, which is the crossroads ritual. You go to a crossroads and you pray to Satan for him to bless you. And I didn't really notice at the time if anything different kind of happened. But looking back, I realized that there was a very malevolent sort of influence in my life, and I never really did anything very good with my life, and I believe that might even really be why. I didn't really ever think about it like that at the time, though. I was always interested in partying and doing drugs and basically having like sex with people casually, all kinds of things like that, and I never really had any good relationships with friends or anything. We were all just kind of a bad influence on each other. But that's all to say that after this ritual, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was sort of in a cabin in the woods, and it was nighttime, and there was the moon above, and that was the only light that I can recall. And I walked outside of the cabin into the forest behind into a clearing, and I looked up at the sky, and I saw what looked like a man falling from the sky down to the clearing towards me. And I wasn't even afraid, but looking back on it, I probably should have been, because here's what he looked like. He had just this intense, beautiful face, like the most perfect face you can ever imagine. And in his face, he had these two unusual eyes. They were orange, kind of reddish orange, just like an owl. And his hair was kind of reddish orange as well, and had two tufts coming out of the top, like horns, like what you would see on like a great horned owl. And his arms were not like normal arms. He had wings for arms, and his hands were like talons. And he came to me and took my hands in his and held my hands and looked right into my eyes for a long moment. And I just remember thinking when I woke up, like, I have a guardian angel or something like that. And I was like really excited because I never had a dream like that before in my life. It was so vivid and just like I was really there. I was really awake or something. And for a few years after that, nothing else really happened except for that I became just really sick, and I developed an eating disorder, and my addiction to alcohol became a huge part of my life. And I pretty much never ate food. I just drank a lot of alcohol, and I don't really know how I survived like that, but it lasted for a long time. So I was really sick and I got really thin and I felt miserable all the time because all I would ever do is smoke a lot of pot and drink alcohol. And after a few years, I um, ended up starting an adult webcam channel. And during that time, because I never really had to leave my house, I just would drink all day long, every single day. And my channel wasn't even like really normal. I was like a BDSM kind of a webcam channel. And I would essentially like mutilate and torture myself. And I found myself dedicating my webcam stream to Satan most of the time. I would dedicate it to Satan when I would torture myself, and it was really honestly depraved. And I would just be doing that every single day, torturing myself and drinking, and I would not really sleep or eat. And after a few years of doing that, I found out that one of the viewers that I had, it like broke up his marriage when he was watching me. So I vowed never to stream again after that. And I ended up getting like a normal job. I went back to school and I learned a new trade, and I even moved to a new city. And I still wasn't able to quit drinking though. But at this point, I really began to hate it and wanted to quit. I desperately wanted to quit and to be normal and to live a normal life, but it was like I was unable to stop myself from drinking. And I ended up in the hospital a few times from it. I was um, just always drinking. And, you know, the next few years are basically like a blur, but I do remember having another dream. And this one was like as intense as the first one. And what happened was that I was in a field, like in a garden, working. And I looked up at the sky and I saw that there was only one cloud in this perfect blue sky. And it just sort of started morphing and becoming like some sort of malevolent looking like thing. And like I can't really describe it. It was like morphing, and it started flying towards me, and it choked me, and it crushed me, and I could feel it. And when I woke up, I was afraid, and I smelled this evil smell, and it smelled like burning brimstone or sulfur or something. And I thought I like maybe left the stove on, so I went to go check, but it was only in the bedroom where I smelled the smell. And I just laid back down and I remember thinking to myself, like, that's got to be from all the magic I've been doing and all the, talking to demons. And I remembered the first dream and I thought to myself, like, this has to be demons. And I thought, if these demons are real, like, Jesus has to be real. And that was the first moment that I really ever realized that Jesus was real. And, I never really thought like he wasn't real or that anything like that, but I never really thought about it. And that was just, it struck me as like, he has to exist because these things definitely exist. And I was terrified. And, even at this point, like, I wouldn't consider myself a Christian. I was still doing tarot and like Reiki and things like that. And like yoga and just like all of that kind of stuff, like new age things and whatever, and witchcraft. And absolutely, I was definitely into that kind of thing. So, yeah, that didn't end, and I didn't pray, and I didn't do anything with this knowledge except keep drinking and living this horrible life that I was living. And things got worse and worse. Now, fast forward to it's 2024 in the summertime, and I even had to call out of work this day because I woke up drunk and I decided to just go drink some more. So I went to the gas station and bought more alcohol, and I'm just sitting in the parking lot of a thrift store, and I feel so pathetic and so horrible and just so sick. And it was honestly awful. And I'm just drinking and just feeling sorry for myself. And it was just such a low point. And, I was like wishing that I could stop and just feeling like completely unable to control myself. So, anyway, I finished what I was drinking and I decided to go in the store and go shop. And I went to the book section and I felt drawn like a magnet to one book in particular. And I've never touched a Bible before this in my entire life. I've never opened one or read one. And I know, like about Genesis or whatever from pop culture kind of stuff and like Adam and Eve and whatever, but like I never read the Bible. I never opened one or touched one in my life until this very moment when I found on the shelf this Bible. And here it is. And it's like a children's Bible, as you can see. It's like got illustrations in it, and it's like from the 80s. So like it's pretty funny, honestly. It's cute. But when I opened it and I looked at the dedication, it's my father's name actually was the original owner of this child. They have the same name. So I was shocked. And I felt like it has to be a sign, basically. So I took it and I brought it with me to the counter, and the lady just gave it to me. She said they don't charge for Bibles at the store, and so I just brought it home and I opened it up. And I opened it towards the end, towards the Gospels, and I started reading Mark. And I was just like amazed about all the stories about Jesus healing people and like helping them, and especially like healing them from their like demonic addictions and demonic attacks and such. And I was just like, I wish that was me, thinking like that. And actually, like, what's strange is that as I was reading, I realized like I didn't feel any cravings for alcohol. So I basically was able to quit alcohol for about 2 weeks, and I didn't feel any cravings or any kind of thing like that. And that was the first time that I felt that way ever that I can recall. Like, I was not even able to stay sober for longer than like a day or two for years. And I just left it behind, like it didn't matter anymore as soon as I cracked this Bible open. So I was just like amazed by that. And now I did return to drinking after about 2 weeks, because it was like I just started hearing this voice. It was like, just keep drinking. Nobody loves you. You might as well just drink. You want to, like, go ahead. And I was just like hearing this and thinking like, I should just drink alcohol and stuff. And as soon as that started happening, like I wasn't able to really read the Bible anymore. I wasn't able to like open it or touch it or even look at it. So it's like for the rest of the summer, I kind of just let it sit and I didn't even look at it. And I went back to drinking, and it was worse than ever, because I started feeling like, all these feelings of like that I was being watched, or that like paranoia. I was like having paranoid thoughts and like thinking I was seeing things like in my room at night, and like being touched and like tickled and like just touched, and like shadow people and stuff like that, and thinking like people were following me in their cars and stuff when I was out. And it was really scary. I was terrified. I never had anything like that happen to me before. And I was always like obviously depressed and like dealing with alcoholism, but an eating disorder and that kind of thing. But like it was never like I was hallucinating or anything like that. I've never had that. Also feeling this kind of sensation like I wasn't really in control of my thoughts, or it's like hard to describe. Like I don't really have words for it, but yeah, that was all going on. And like, as it became fall, I began writing a story, and I never wrote anything like that before. I wrote like essays for school, but I never wrote a story before. So I was like, I was straight obsessed with writing this story, and I thought that it was going to be kind of like an adventure story about a girl and her friends and like vampires and like magic artifacts, and it was going to be like a supernatural kind of like adventure story. But what ended up happening was that these demonic entities basically hijacked the story and made it all about them and what they wanted to do to the characters in the story. And I felt like I was unable to control what I was writing. And not only that, but like I couldn't stop writing. I was like writing this story so quickly. I couldn't stop. I was obsessed. And it was like it took over my entire life, and every thought was about this. And like I would just be drinking until I was sick and just staying up all night. I was unable to sleep now. And I was just thinking about this story and writing it. And like I was sick. Like I was obsessed. And the kind of stuff that they started making me write was bizarre and disturbing. And it was like these three demons, which like I found out who they were, like what their names are, and all kinds of stuff about them from the story. And I don't know, I guess like they became like able to communicate with me through the story, and then eventually like their influence grew enough to where they could like talk to me in my mind when I wasn't writing, and I wasn't even drunk. So like as I realized this was happening, I decided actually just to ask them what they wanted, and they told me that they wanted to hurt me and that they wanted to control me and they wanted to dominate me, and they didn't have any good plans for me at all. And they told me this, and they um that was like the first time that like I was not drunk, and they moved my hands and they made me like grope myself and touch myself. And like that's when they started making me listen to music that they liked. So this thing, it had like a whole playlist it made for me, and it wanted me to listen to certain songs that were about like either about them, which there are a lot of songs about demons, trust me, and like, or it was like songs that people listened to when they were under the influence of demons, like a lot, they would say, or like if the band was like a band that like was demonically influenced, like they had all this stuff to say about it, like honestly. So that was what the playlist was, and they made me listen to that kind of music all the time. They loved music, and they also made me write poetry about like what they were doing, and like it was honestly so sad and messed up. And like as their influence grew, like, and they started to do worse things, they began to influence me even further, and I began to feel them like moving my body, and I felt like they were inside of me and moving around and like doing things. And it got really a lot worse from this point ever since I spoke to them. So they began, this like wouldn't happen when anybody was around. They, I think, want to get away with it. They're sneaky. So like they would make me look at their shadows, like my shadow, but like make me do shadow puppets to like give myself horns and like all kinds of other weird things. And they would make me look in the mirror a lot at them. Like I knew that I was looking at them, not myself. Like they wanted to look at me and look at me when they were moving me around. And like I would just be staring off into space, and like who knows what I was doing, but like my dog would start barking at me and stuff, and it was like really weird. But yeah, there were a lot of moments like that, and like I went to the doctor and I told them, you know, like I don't feel right, like something's going on. and they just told me like I needed to eat a better diet basically, and like I needed to take antidepressants, and I needed to, stop drinking and eat good food and that kind of thing. And like, that didn't help. I took antidepressants and I felt like happy for a week or whatever, but like I never felt like better, because these things were like doing stuff, and I told them what happened, and they just gave me antidepressants for it, really, honestly. So I went ahead and I looked up like alternative remedies. I'm like, there has to be something I can do. So I started like fasting and taking the Master Cleanse, which is like a type of lemonade, that's like spicy. And after this happened, like, I'm sorry, this is gross, but like I passed worms, and I had worms apparently. So, you know, I'm like really freaked out and disgusted by this. So I go back to the doctor and I told them, and they gave me more medicine for it. Thank God they believed me, because I didn't catch any of them or whatever. And they gave me the medicine, so I took it, and I realized, it'll work better if I fast. And I looked them up, and I found out that there's like herbs that you can take, because the medicine they gave me doesn't actually like kill their eggs. So I got herbs as well, and so I took that, and I fasted, and I took the Master Cleanse. And after a few more days, they started to get really angry, and I was like, well, the other thing they said, I was like, I mean, obviously you're wondering, like, who cares? Like, you have worms. They actually told me that the worms were, like, their spawn. They said that they raped me, and that was, like, the only children I would ever have would be their worms. It was so, like, they were so cruel, and they said so many mean and messed up things to me. I'm just, like, having a hard time, like, talking about it, honestly, because it's so messed up. But, like, yeah, they said that. And the worms, they said, were like how they were like their antenna, basically. They can look at me, and they can like, control my nervous system through it and stuff like that. Which, like, who knows if that's true, but that's what they said. They said that they use the worms like to influence me. Which is disgusting. So obviously I wanted to get rid of these things, so I'm still fasting. And I realized, like, if I listen to the music they like, and I drink a little alcohol, and I eat some of the food that they like, they'll probably come out more, because like the worms like bury into your like mucus layer in your intestines. But like I didn't want them to hide, because they're intelligent. They like are, they can understand what's going on, these demons that are controlling them, and they know what you're thinking and whatever. But so I'm just like formulating a plan basically to help myself get rid of them. And at this point I didn't even think of praying or asking Jesus for help, like, at all. And I don't really know why. I think it might have something to do with the fact that like I was possessed, and I just couldn't bring myself to pray. Like, I never prayed until further down the line. So I go ahead, and so the final week that I'm going through this, it gets to Thursday, and I've been fasting and taking this Master Cleanse and the herbs that I got for several days. And at this point, like, I think the demon, it's like getting really angry at me for doing this, and it's absolutely like upset that I'm trying to kill it and to evict it from my body. And so, like, this is really when things got completely off the rails. So this was like really painful. I won't lie. I felt like I was gonna die. Like, it was making me like fall down, and like I broke my glasses and stuff. Like, these are new ones that I got after this, but like I broke them, and I couldn't control myself. I was like being thrown around by this thing, and it was like crushing me and like beating me, and I felt like it was beating me up like inside. It was like pummeling me and like beating me and yelling and screaming, and I could hear myself talking and saying things and like screaming in this crazy voice. And like you know, I was just unable to stop myself from any of this happening. Like, I had no control over my body. Um, so this is Thursday, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, I need to get rid of these things. It's like, I'm so terrified, and I just, you know, it was literally throwing me around. And when no one was around, it was like holding me down and raping me, and it was like really scary, and it hurt really bad. And like, I hate to say it, but yeah, it was absolutely just like doing all kinds of like horrible things to me. Um and I could see it, and it looked like this like black figure um above me, and it was just like holding me down and like hurting me. And I could feel it like inside of me doing things and outside of me like doing things. And it was just, it was horrible, and it was so terrifying. And then it was like making fun of me, and it was like yelling and screaming at me, and it was saying all kinds of things I don't even, things I would never think, you know, things I would never like feel. I can't even really like understand it to this day, like how it was able to do any of this. But it like, yeah, I was just like being thrown around by this thing and like tortured by it, and it was horrible. And so the next day, you know, I was thinking like, it likes music so bad, you know, I should listen to some music that it doesn't like or whatever. And so I started listening to like Christian metal because I like metal or whatever. So I was like looking up, you know, Christian metal and listening to it, and I realized like when I was listening to it, I couldn't hear them, and it like got better. So I was thinking like, wow, what a relief. I should listen to this. And you know, if they can't like talk to me or whatever, that's like a good thing. So I was trying to get like work done. I was like at work, and they were like talking to me and making me like think about cutting myself and like killing myself and stuff. And you know, and acting weird, and like my hands were like doing all this like weird stuff, like they were like controlling my arms and stuff. It was like really hard to like drive. They were like making me like drive crazy and stuff too. It was like really scary. And you know, so like it's Friday, okay, and I'm driving home, and I get alcohol because like, you know, I'm trying to get them to like feel safe, like I'm just gonna do my normal routine and drink alcohol like you want me to. And I was listening to their playlist and drinking, and like, you know, trying to get them to like come up so I could take the medicine and kill them. And like, honestly, I took it fast. I like didn't even look at what my hands were doing when I made the herbs. And I like, I was drunk, and I was like feeling really terrible, and these things are like trying to hurt me. And you know, they're just like beating me up, and I felt like I was gonna die. I really felt like I was gonna die. I was sitting in my couch, I still remember, and I'm just like sitting there, and I'm crying, and like they just like got done raping me again, and like they just like throwing my body around, and like I didn't know like what to do. And like it was so painful, and I really thought, you know, I'm gonna die like this. And I just, and then it was just like a light bulb went off. I was just like, I need to pray, you know. So I'm just like, Jesus Christ, please save me, like please save me. And that was like the first time that I ever prayed, and I was so like scared. I'm sorry. I was just really scared. And yeah, so I put on the Christian metal playlist and I'm listening to it and I'm just thinking, like, I need to go smoke some pot because I'm, like, in so much pain. And I went outside and I'm listening to the music and I hear War of Ages come on, and the song is called No Altars. And, like, some of the lyrics are just that, like, you know, like, bow down to the one true king. And I'm thinking, like, I should bow down. Like, I need, like, to bow down to Jesus, like, right now. And so I set my bong down and I'm, like, high and I'm drunk. And I just, like, get up from my porch chair. And as I do that, I look up into the sky and I see just, like, this, like, an opening in the clouds, like a hole in the clouds, and there's, like, a gigantic figure standing there in the sky, and I'm, like, unable to understand what I'm really looking at. And as I'm staring, I realize, like, it's Jesus. And, like, this is when things get really crazy, okay? So I am standing there just staring up at the clouds, and, like, Jesus is appearing to me, and it was so beautiful. And he just reaches his hand down like he's gonna, like, poke me in the face, and along his arm I see, like, lightning go down his arm towards me, and the lightning is actually four beings. When they appear around me, like, I couldn't see their faces. I couldn't see, like, anything about them. Just, like, they were made of lightning. And they had swords. And they were standing just around me. And I'm in awe, okay? Because, like, what are you looking at right now? I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like, it's not shadow people, you know, or any kind of, like, spooky thing out of the corner of your eye. Like, there's literally beings made of lightning standing around me. So I'm just, like, stood there, and one of them reaches out and touches my shoulder and, like, helps me get down to the ground and, like, pushes my face to the ground to, like, bow down and pray. And I'm just like, it didn't hurt, right? Not being, like, shocked or whatever, but it's, like, made of lightning, so it didn't make any sense. So I'm just, like, laughing because, like, saying it out loud is just, like, I haven't really told anybody this yet, like, in person or whatever. And so he helps me down to pray, and I hear just, like, don't look, it's dangerous. And then I realize that there's, like, bright light shining all around. It's, like, so bright I can't even see. It's like being inside of, like, a piece of burning magnesium. It's so bright. And as this happens, I feel like I'm in two places at once. And I feel like I am being lifted up out of my body and flying into the sky. And I feel like Jesus's arms are around me, and he's, like, holding me and, like, pulling me up to his chest. And I can't, like, see his face clearly, but, like, you know, he's, like, made of, like, energy and clouds and, like, just, like, swirling energy. And, like, he just, like, holds me in his chest and his arms, and, like, then all of a sudden I'm back in my body again. And, like, I'm able to see what's going on, and I'm able to feel what's going on. And now this is, like, hard to explain, but essentially I felt like I was disemboweled, and, like, something, like I'm wounded, and my energy is, like, coming out of my body, like, from my womb, basically, from, you know, down below. And, like, I realize that I can see behind me what's going on, and that these beings are fighting something. And what it looks like is like a big molten pile of disgusting rotting bones and like carcasses and goo and ooze, and it's just like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And these like beautiful like lightning creatures are like fighting this thing, and it's just like all happening in my backyard. Like, I'm shocked. I'm still kneeling with my face on the ground, and one of these things, these lightning creatures, like, I'll just go ahead and call him because I found out later what it is. It's an angel, okay? Like, this angel is like holding me down, like, so that I don't get up and get blasted by Jesus's holy light, I suppose. And like, essentially, the rest of them, because there's four, are like fighting this creature, which, like, I come to realize it's the demon that has been like controlling me. It was like attached inside of me, and that's why I felt like this strange sensation when they cut it off of me and started chasing it away. So like after what could only be like a brief moment, because the same song is still playing, they let me up and they're gone. Like they flew away. Like everything is dark again, and it's just like it was before, and there's no hole in the clouds. And I just sit down and I'm shocked. Okay, I am just shocked and awe, and I'm thinking like, I'm not drunk anymore. I'm not high, I'm not drunk. And I just sat and I felt like free. I felt just this amazing sensation of freedom, and just this vision came over me. Like, I realized like I was in two places at once again. Like, what it was that I was sitting in my chair, but also I was like a sword flying through the sky, and I felt just like this overwhelming like sensation of that I needed to like go and find those angels and fight with them and get revenge. And I just hear in my mind like this voice like, stop. You'll hurt yourself, and you should go inside and take a bath. And that's what they told me to do. So I was like put back in my body basically. And I'm just like sitting there in my porch like, well, I better go take a bath. So I do. I go, and when I get into the bathroom and I run the bath, I hear, the same voice again, and they said, "We got it." And they're like cheering, and I hear just like voices cheering, and they sound excited, and I'm just like feeling excited, like, oh, they got it. And that bubbling creature, whatever it was, like, it was it was just like this feeling of like that we were celebrating. And so I got in the bath, and it just like all hit me. Like, I really didn't feel good. You know, like, I wasn't being like moved and tortured like before, but like I felt like not good. I felt like in pain, like I was gonna die. And after a moment, I realized like the angels had come back, and like at this point they really did look like angels. They looked like Christmas angels with white robes, and like they were still so bright I couldn't really see like their faces or anything like that. Like, they didn't have swords, they weren't lightning anymore. They looked, like Christmas angels, like just these beautiful shining figures. And they stood by the tub, and they stood around me, and they were looking down at me, and they were like flying around me. Like, I can't really describe how this is possible because I don't have that big of a bathroom, but it was like they weren't contained by like normal reality, so they were kind of just like floating around me. And they were like urging me to be inside the water and not look in the mirror and not let the demons see me. They were thinking that it could come back if it was able to see it, me look at myself. And so they were like saying like, don't be outside of the water, like be covered, with the bubbles and stuff, like you don't want to be naked. But they were like telling me, it's gonna be okay, and they were like trying to comfort me. And I was just like, how the heck can I understand what you guys are saying? Because like I have a King James Bible, actually. So I was thinking that they'd be like, you know, like, thou art, whatever, you know? So, like, or speaking Hebrew, or who knows. So, but no, they speak like normal language, like people do. And I was just like people nowadays, I mean, like they were just speaking like normal English. And so they were just trying to comfort me and like say nice things. And they were really kind. And they were like, you know, just saying like it's gonna be all right. And like they told me, you know, in a way that I would understand, that they were gonna do spirit surgery, which like is like, you know, witchcraft thing, of course, but like they knew that I would understand what they meant, that they were gonna try to heal me. And so they did. And I felt like what they were doing, they were like, now this is like super disgusting and graphic, but they were essentially pulling like this demon's member out of my body. And what it felt like was, it just hurt. It just hurt so bad. And it hurt deep into my soul. It wasn't even just like hurting my body, but it was hurting my soul. And it was inside of me. And as they pulled, they were like commenting on like how hurt I was, and that it was like I was mortally wounded. And just like in my, like, how can I really describe this? It's like you have two sets of eyes basically. And so like with the set of eyes that is not your normal human being eyes, you have like spiritual eyes you can see through. And so that's how I can see this. And what I am looking at essentially is this thing coming out of me, and all of this energy from my body is pouring out of me like blood. And it's like this beautiful golden light. And they said that it shouldn't come out, actually. It goes in through the top of your head. But your energy shouldn't ever like leave your body like that. And it was, they were like worried for me. I could tell they didn't sound like they were happy to see this, and that they were worried. And they said that they were doing what they could to help close it, the wound. And yeah, so it's like I was being disemboweled by this thing. And it just looked really bizarre. And as they pulled it, it hurt. And like they were just trying to like, you know, hold me and like comfort me and stuff. And I don't know how long this took, because I wasn't like looking at any kind of like clock or whatever. But after they were done, they told me to like be covered, and wear like a hoodie, and wear like, you know, something that covers my head, and like be totally covered and not have any skin showing. So they had me go to bed, and they said that they were going to stay the night and make sure that it didn't come back. But they just kept telling me to like keep my legs together and like not have my face out of the covers even. And they, I could tell, were like in the bed, like standing around and stuff like that. And I was like scared, but I felt a lot better knowing that, you know, they were there. I felt like comforted by them, and they were really, really kind and really gentle, and like just, you know, like really nice. Like unlike these demons, those, they were cruel, and all they ever said was like mean things, and like the saddest, meanest things you can think to say to somebody, that's what they would say. But these angels, they were like a totally different type of personality. And so they basically just like talked to me until I fell asleep, and they just said like relax, and you know, it's gonna be all right, and like don't fret. And they would say stuff like that. And then eventually I did fall asleep, and the next morning I woke up, and I could tell like they were gone, and there was nothing there. It was like totally, it was like nothing. Like the first time in so long, I felt like nothing was around, you know? There's no demons, whatever, and no angels either. So I just lay back for a minute, and so then all of a sudden I hear like this voice. It's just like this sort of evil kind of voice, and it said perverted angels. And like I felt like this hand, like a sensation of a hand, like running up my body, and like how they would grope me basically. And it was like I was terrified because I was like, oh no, this thing's back. And I just screamed like, Jesus Christ, protect me. And like I didn't know how to pray, you know, I don't know what prayers are, like how to pray or any of that, but like that made it stop. And like I could tell that it left. And so I went out into my couch and I took the medicine from the doctor finally, and I just laid there and I, you know, breathed just a sigh of relief and hope that, you know, I was safe. And I just heard like this voice and felt like this comforting feeling, like I was getting a hug, you know, but nobody was there. And what I heard was, we need to find you a church and you really need some friends. And it was like, not to be mean, but just like some advice, you know. And I realized, you know, that was the Holy Spirit later on. Because even at this point, you know, Jesus literally hugged me in his arms in the sky, and I still didn't know what salvation was or any of that. I didn't know, you know. So I took the medicine, and after a while, like, I was really hungry because I hadn't really eaten anything except for lemonade and alcohol in like 2 weeks, and I felt like I was straight up gonna die. And I just hear the Holy Spirit again, actually, and he said, like, have that soup. So I had, like, I don't know, like this soup, cup of soup or whatever, and I ate it, and it was like the best thing I had ever eaten in my life, and I literally cried and thanked God because it was like, it was over. And, you know, for what it's worth, it's like, I am glad that that all happened because, you know, I never probably would have ever been a believer without any of this to happen. Because I always wanted to rely on myself or even ask like demons for help, but you know, why miss like the perfect opportunity to ask your real, like your father for help, you know? So ever since then, I haven't drank any alcohol. I haven't had any desire to. I'm not even doing any kind of eating disorder stuff I like used to do. I'm not even depressed. I don't even have any pain. I feel like my whole life was transformed that day. Um, and then, you know, like, I looked it up on the internet because I'm like, what does it mean when Jesus appears to you? Like, this is so stupid because, like, I don't know anything about this, I'll be honest. But, like, that's how I found out. Like, that's what people talk about, like, when you're born again or whatever, like, your life just changes. And I'm just like, Jesus saved my life. He appeared to me. I know for sure that he did because, you know, I would never have been able to stay sober. I would never be able to quit smoking pot, even. Like, none of that. I don't care anymore. And I don't hear, like, mean voices telling me to drink, and I don't feel like, you know, there's anybody chasing me. I don't feel depressed. I don't need to take drugs for that. And, like, best of all, I don't feel like anybody's beating me up or any of that. So, you know, like, I know for sure that those angels really did chase this thing away, kill it. I have no idea. They cut his member off, that's for sure. But, like, it's just so messed up, really. I mean, that's the story, though. That's really what happened. I don't think I can make this up in my mind. Honestly, it's just so bizarre. Because I'm not that creative. Like, I like to make pottery and stuff, but, you know, this honestly doesn't make any sense even to me. And since then, you know, it's not the only time that I've heard the Holy Spirit. It's not the only time that I have had visions ever since this. Like, I made some other videos about it. Like, I didn't even know that, like, people are supposed to spread the gospel. But, like, I had a whole vision about that God wants us to share that with people. And, like, I didn't even know that. Like, it's like, he's revealing to me things that, like, I should know as a Christian, and telling me what to read in the Bible and stuff like that, and just guiding me. And it's like, you know, the Holy Spirit is really, like, inside of you, and he really exists, and he really does talk to you. And, that wasn't the only time I ever saw Jesus, like, face to face either. And, like, about the vision, it's like the most beautiful thing that you can ever imagine. That's what he looks like. He's so beautiful and so, like, shining and just amazing looking. And, like, I'm trying to make AI draw this, but it's like, I can't get it right. It's, like, so beautiful how it looks, and I'm trying, but anyway, really, that's my story. And it's like it all just happened yesterday, honestly, but it's been about 3 months at this point, so I know for sure, like, what happened, because my life has completely transformed, like I said, and I can read the Bible now. I love my Bible, actually. I sleep with it. I really cannot put it down. I read it so much, and it, like, is the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm so happy and thankful that he did what he did. And if anybody hears this and listens to the end, like, I just want you to have hope and realize, like, it doesn't matter if you're a Satanist or if you're a whore or if you're somebody that, like, has lustful thoughts, or if somebody that has, like, horrible, like, bad habits, or if you're an addict. Yeah, he's coming to save you. Like, he really will. He wants you to pray to him. And, like, he wants to save you. And there's many parables about this in the Bible, and there's many instances of other people having this happen to them. And if you hear me, I want you to know, like, you don't even have to be a Christian first. You don't even have to be clean. You don't even have to be righteous. You don't have to have works. You don't have to do any kind of work other than to accept Jesus into your heart and to realize that he's real. And that you can just pray to him and ask for help. And be ready, because he's come. He's gonna come and help you. He will. Which, like, yeah, I mean, I just want people to have hope if they hear me, because even if demons have literally possessed you and taken your entire life away from you, even if demons have raped you and beaten you to a bloody pulp and thrown you around on your floor and tried to force you to do all kinds of things you don't want to do, even then, Jesus will come and help you, come and save you. Because he doesn't want us to suffer. He doesn't want us to be taken advantage of by the enemy. And, yeah. Not only that, but there isn't really a limit to his power. And things are much more than they seem. Life is supernatural. So I hope that shed some light on that fact, because I wouldn't be sober without that being the truth. And I definitely would be dead now, because I was in a very dire situation. Demons notwithstanding, I was headed towards the grave. So, yeah, if anybody has any questions about this, or if you want to share your story with me, even privately, I've got an email address, so you can feel free to reach out. And I just want everybody to be safe. I just have prayed so hard and so long about it since I was saved that I never want somebody to go through what I did with them. I don't ever want anybody to feel that way, or feel like they're alone and desperate and desolate, and that their life isn't worth living. Because it is. It is worth it. And things can always change. You never know when Jesus might poke you in the face and send 4 angels to help you. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Bye.